Is your business pootling along instead of firing on all cylinders? Are you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and frustrated? Do your dreams of financial freedom feel a long way off? Then this is the podcast for you. Little Voice, Big Business with your host, Nadia Finer.
Welcome to Little Voice, Big Business with me, Nadia Finer. Today we're going to talk about list building, and I want to start off by discussing why you need a list in the first place. Now, I think a lot has been said about lists, and many of our lovely friends, our online marketing gurus, talk about building huge lists and how having a list with, say, 50,000 people on it is the secret to growing your business really big, really fast. And I think there's some truth in that. I think having a list means that you've got an audience of people who are engaged enough to have opted in to hear from you. In that respect, I think it's true. However, I don't want us to be panicking about list building as the sole means to grow our business. So before we start, I just want to make that clear. Having a small list of dedicated followers is great. If you need 5 clients a month to run your business and make, say, 5k a month, and that's your goal, well, then you don't necessarily need a huge list, do you? So it's not compulsory. However, I do think there are some good reasons to have a list. I just don't want us to emphasize its importance, or perhaps stop doing other things because we're so focused on growing the list. So why would you need a list? Well, having a list enables you to build a relationship with the people on the list. It enables you to build trust. As you know, I'm not a fan of pumping people through kind of funnels and systems in order to make a sale. Instead, I prefer to think about marketing as relationship building. So getting to know your potential customers and showing them that you care, showing them that you can be trusted, demonstrating the value that you can deliver until it's time to ask them to come and work with you. So if you have a list, you are able to have a dialogue with people, which you can control. Because, for example, if you're relying solely on Facebook fans, you don't own those people's details, and Facebook can control how and when your people see your messages. So if you have a list, you have their email address and their name, you are able to email them whenever you like. Obviously not too often, but you've got control. So by having this list, by building relationship and building trust, you're able to prime people to get them ready to buy from you. You've got their details, you're not relying on a third party like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. It's in your hands, and through emailing them alongside other kind of methods like social media, you're able to get directly into their inbox when you want to without having to pay a fee other than the cost of having an email marketing system. I like to think of it that you, through this list, through this ongoing dialogue, you're able to share your journey and sow these kind of seeds or put down breadcrumbs so that when you're giving them bits of information over and over again, giving value to them, when it comes to sell something, they're ready and that, they're almost gagging for it, waiting for you to finally offer them something that they can buy from you. So it's a much more pleasant way of doing business, I think. And I would just ask that we look at this list as a way to build the relationship. It's not about size and it's not about numbers particularly. It's about what works for you. So in terms of list building, I've got a couple of quick tips to help you get started. First of all, the important thing is to know who you want on your list. What kind of people? What are their buying habits? What are they into? And what are they currently using? Who do they currently follow? And make sure that the people you're encouraging to join your list are the right people. There is literally no point in having thousands of people on your list who are the wrong people. I've seen this happen again and again, and it may be that the people who join are sort of in the general direction, but not specifically your people. And then when it comes to talking to them and marketing to them, you get very low engagement rates. And then ultimately, when you try and sell something to them, no one's interested. And that is not an ideal scenario. So I think the first step is to get super clear on who exactly your ideal customer is, and then target those people. Don't be too general about it. Otherwise, you'll just have a kind of list of randomers, and there's no point in having that. You need to get a tool which will enable you to talk to people following the regulations. There are rules around how you email people, and I suggest you use a proper tool like MailChimp or ConvertKit. I use ConvertKit, that's my favourite, which enables you to email people. It has the proper legal stuff covered, like it has your address on there on every email. It has a means for unsubscribing on there. You need to make sure you comply with the data regulations and not just randomly sending people emails which they can never stop receiving, because I think that's actually breaking the law and you'll get blacklisted. So sign up to a tool, a proper recognised tool. It may be free. MailChimp is free to start with for the first couple of thousand, I believe. Then they charge, so start with something free perhaps and then move on to something more fancy later. I also think it's a good idea. I know I said it's not about the numbers, but it is about the analytics. So you need to know whether your email to 200 people gets opened. You need to know how many people are opening it, whether they're interested, whether they're clicking, all that kind of stuff. And you can also track how many people land on a particular page on your site. So your email tool should enable you to do that, but also something like Google Analytics, you'll be able to track how it impacts the traffic to your website. Okay, so how are we going to get people onto your list? It doesn't generally work to just ask people to sign up to your newsletter. They won't understand why they should. And in fact, you've not given them a reason to. There's nothing in it for them. Why would they sign up to just randomly hear from you about your subject or your business, which you're interested in, but they're not? So there are a few things you can do. And if you start to think about the newsletters which you've signed up for, have a think about what made you do it in the first place. So I know that when I go to an online store, when a pop-up comes up and says, get 20% off your first order, sign up here, I do usually sign up because I think, oh, well, I might be interested in that. And why would I not want to save 20%? I'd be mad, right? So mad not to, so I sign up. So that's simple. You can do something like that. If you have a service-based business, which I know many of you do, think about an opt-in offer, some kind of freebie. I know many of you have heard of this idea, something which is interesting, which solves a problem which they really, really want, that's going to help them. So tailor it to your people, obviously, and make sure that they need to sign up to receive it. It's not just random, so if you're optimizing for something that's not connected to what you're actually selling, it may be that yes, they do want to learn how to use MailChimp, or some of the people visiting your site might want to learn some soccer skills. But if your business has got nothing to do with MailChimp or soccer, then you're just going to end up with the wrong people on your list. Okay, that is an extreme example, but you see what I mean. It has to be like the tip of the iceberg. So It's got to be something at the top and on message. So if they started working with you, it would just go deeper and deeper. And the freebie is something which is connected, which is got the key message, the same as what you do, but is also a kind of lighter touch version of, say, your one-to-one services. Now, there's loads of freebies out there at the moment. So the challenge is coming up with something which, A, is what people want. Otherwise, they just won't bother. B, has a higher perceived value, so it's not just worth nothing or 2p. It has to be worth something to them in order for people to give you their email address. So think about 20% off, that is worth money. You think, oh yes, well if I spent $100, then I would definitely be saving some money there. Okay, so it needs to be worth something. It needs to be relevant, and I think it needs to be, not just the same old kind of offer or product which everybody is doing. So try and think of something a bit different, a bit unique. And ideally, from your point of view, it would be something which you can deliver for free. So don't give them something which you actually have to make or then send in the post. Obviously, a digital product is a much better idea. Okay, so you're going to use your MailChimp or your ConvertKit to deliver the product to them automatically so that when people sign up, you're not manually emailing them. I know you know this, but I just think I need to say it just in case anyone's thinking, how do I actually do the delivering? And when I first started out, I had no idea. But those software programs, email marketing software, solves that for you. It delivers your freebie. So that's good to know, right? Okay, so some things that people try are like a mini course, a webinar could be an opt-in, a useful tool, a quiz, a competition, a planner. I've got my action planner previously that people have used, profit planner, people like that. Something which has a high perceived value, which is useful, which is going to help them, which is interesting, doesn't look the same as everyone else's. In order to encourage sign-ups, you want to have a squeezed page. Now, this is basically a very plain page on your website with no distractions. The visitor is squeezed into signing up because they're not distracted by the menu, they're not clicking away from the page. All that's on there is the key points and a sign-up box. There's even no navigation bar at the top sometimes or any unnecessary images or links. You just want them to focus on that one thing, and it forces them to make a decision, so they're either going to opt in or leave the page. There's no, oh, maybe I'll just check this out or that out. You just want to make sure that they opt in to increase the chances once you've got people to that page that they're actually going to sign up. You can also add sign-up boxes and prompts to your website in different places. So, for example, I'll feature a sign-up box within a blog post. Also have a pop-up. You can have a pop-up that comes up on the site as well as a separate page that you can direct people to. So make sure you're maximising the chances of somebody signing up. You can even feature something at the bottom of your email address, not email address, your email signature, so that when you send a normal email, it says, oh, by the way, check this out, or click here to sign up. You can add it to your Facebook page as well, so that when they're visiting your Facebook page, there's an opportunity for them to opt in. Okay, so that's kind of how to physically deliver this freebie. And we've talked about the point of having a list, which I also just want to emphasize the fact that you don't need to have 50,000 fans. Like I said, you could have a couple of hundred or 1,000 people who really dig what you're doing, and that can be enough. So certainly let's not get competitive and let's not start comparing ourselves to other people. It's much better to have an engaged, quality bunch of people who really like you than thousands and thousands of random people who are not particularly bothered by what you're saying. Okay, so how are you going to drive traffic? How are you going to get people to opt in? Well, there's loads of ideas, and now you know how you're going to deliver the thing and how it's kind of set up. You basically want to get your marketing hat on and come up with lots of ideas to generate traffic to the offer, generate interest and get people clicking. Okay, let's assume you don't have a huge audience yet, but you want to attract some more people. So the first thing I would do is think about who has a similar audience. Who could you talk to that already has reach, already has the influence that you're looking for? And what could you offer them? So that could be something like doing an interview on a podcast and writing a guest post for somebody else's blog or website. And as long as it relates to your topic, and then you can potentially mention your freebie at the bottom or within the interview. By the way, if you head over to my website, you can get a free bloody blah. So you're reaching the kind of people that you want to attract, but they belong to someone else. But by adding value, by providing an interview or some useful tips, you've got the opportunity to promote your work and your freebie. The key is to find people who've got access to lots of traffic, so fairly big people, the bigger the better really, that you can possibly find. And although if you've got a very specific kind of audience, then I would aim to speak to people who have a really great match with you and build relationships there. Don't forget to link, don't forget to mention your freebie at the end. You know, in those few lines at the bottom of a blog post, for example, where they give your name, your website, a bit about what you do, that kind of thing. Mention it in there at the bottom. Another great way to promote your freebie is through live streaming. So my preferred method is Facebook live streaming versus Periscope or Blab. I really like the fact that on Facebook you tend to talk to your people, not a bunch of perverts. Because on Periscope I seem to attract randomers and it's very distracting. So through something like Facebook live streams, I could offer some tips. You could do something similar, share a part of your process with your people and then mention the freebie and make the link as simple as possible. So say mine was at nadiafiner.com. You don't want /45621AB3Z5. You know, that's not a good address. If it was just nadiafiner.com/planner or /freebie, that kind of thing, it would be easier for people to remember. And you can easily set that up when you create your page, but you can also use Pretty Links, which is a really super easy, useful tool. It's just a plugin, Pretty Links, to create a simple URL for your freebie that people will be able to remember. So you're talking to people on live streams, you could run a webinar, and a webinar in itself can be like a freebie because people are opting in to join, but you could also promote something else on a webinar to get them opting in again. You can chat to people in Facebook groups, and then if they ask, oh, do you have anything to help me with that particular issue, you can say, oh yeah, I do actually. Here's the link, as long as it's not breaking the rules of somebody else's group. And yes, as I mentioned, have a memorable link. Contests and giveaways are a great way to build your list. Yeah, you get to reach an audience that you would not have reached before. Friends of your friends. If everyone brought in a friend, you can grow your list by 50%, obviously. So that would be amazing. So competitions, you can just have one prize or a range of prizes. Make sure you follow the Facebook rules, assuming you're running it on Facebook. There's a bunch of tools you can check out to help you facilitate running giveaways. I think Woobox is meant to be good. Rafflecopter, things like that. Check out a tool to help facilitate this and ensure that you comply with the regulations. But definitely competitions are great. People love competitions. You could also promote your freebie when you go to things. So when you're at meetups or conferences or any kind of events, you can collect registrations through face-to-face events for an online for your freebie or just for your list. you can get people to even opt in at the time rather than getting them to write down their email address and then going home and finding that it doesn't work or you can't read their writing. When someone opts in, the ideal scenario is to send them a double opt-in message. So they need to, you've seen the things where it arrives and it says, confirm your subscription here. Now, some people hate that, some people love it. It does mean when you do that people who are on your list are really committed to being there. It may also mean that some people opt in and then never confirm their subscription, reducing your numbers. But arguably, you'd much rather have people who really want to be on your list there, not just people who are half-hearted around it. Double opt-in is a good idea. And then when someone's signed up, you send them a welcome email. Hey there, thanks for signing up. Here's my freebie that you requested, and you send it to them. And there's lots more ways to grow your list. So you could have a quiz, and that could in itself be the freebie. So they could take part in the quiz and then have to opt in to get the answer, something like that. You could use social media to spread the word about your freebie. So set up some tweets, etc., some pins on Pinterest. You could, like I said, I think before, incorporate it into your Facebook page. Make sure you post about it in your Facebook group if you have one. So I would go kind of all out. And these are all the free ways I would use to drive traffic to your freebie and grow your list. Now, obviously, you could pay to grow your list. So let's assume you're doing something like a webinar. You can promote it within your existing network. You can talk about the fact that you're doing it on social media. And then you can also drive some traffic to the webinar or to the planner or whatever else you decide to use using ads. Now, depending on your field, on your industry, your conversion rate will change. The price per conversion will change. So some industries, it seems to be a lot easier to grow a list. In others, for example, in the business field, it's a lot more expensive, but then potentially each lead is worth more money. So have a think about how much you want to spend. If you're not an ads expert, there's a lot to learn. So I would spend some time swatting up, or I would hire someone. Now, I prefer to hire somebody to help me with my ads because I don't have time to do it properly and it's not my area of expertise. But I do think you're a lot better off getting some help potentially and doing them properly than fumbling around and literally throwing money down the drain if your ads aren't working brilliantly. Yes, you can drive traffic to your opt-in, your webinar, your quiz, but monitor it carefully because if you take your eye off the ball and the ads continue running, you might find that you've just spent $100 without really seeing any return on investment. Done well, Facebook ads can be amazing and can really help you grow your list, but I would just keep an eye on how much you're spending and do some calculations. So how much is it worth to you for each potential client? How much are they worth to your business? So let's say you get 100 new people signed up for a webinar and you assume that of that you're going to sell maybe 5 places out of 100 on your program of whatever kind it is. How much money is that worth to you? So how much is each potential person? And then how much, therefore, should you be spending to get those 100 people signed up? So the numbers have to add up. Otherwise, it can be a case that you're just wasting money. So don't do that. But ads are, they can be a great way to grow your list. Although they're not the only way. So if you don't want to do ads, you don't have to. And, as I've mentioned, you can be really busy on social media, in-person events, doing talks, guest posting, all that stuff, live streaming, and all that's free and doesn't involve any ads at all. Okay, so now you've got these people signed up to your list, what are you going to do with them? Well, we mentioned the idea of building a relationship, and I think it really does come down to this. By emailing people with content on a regular basis, you're building your relationship with them. They're getting to like you and know you and trust you. Think about it in terms of this. Give, ask. A very wise lady, Shah Wasmond, who's a friend of mine, she taught me this. Give, ask. So you're not just bombarding people with emails the whole time, selling your stuff to them, because they will unsubscribe and get very irritated by you. Instead, give value again and again and again before you ask for something. So this could be sharing ideas or tips or stories, resources, things you've created for your people to show them that you care about them and that you're an expert in your field, you know what you're talking about, and they can trust you, and then come in and ask for something. You know, if you were dating someone, you wouldn't just randomly expect them to marry you without having shown that you're worth it, okay? These emails, now, I get loads of these emails. I get loads and loads and loads of marketing emails. I've signed up for all kinds of things, so I find it fascinating to read other people's emails. And sometimes I read them, and, I read right to the bottom, and it's a long email. And I find, I'm drawn into the stories. And other times I think, what a load of arrogant crap. Because people seem to follow a certain formula. There's a lot of it about, I think they must be going to some kind of email writing school where they learn certain ways to communicate, and everyone's at it. So you get these emails which read like anybody's written it, and you've got actually don't feel any connection to the person who's written it whatsoever. Now, compare that to an email written by someone who has really embraced their personality and infused their emails with their own special sauce, if you like. Now that's much more pleasant to read, isn't it? You feel a bond with the person. You feel like you might actually reply to that email. You feel like it's written to you, for you, and that somehow they've seen inside your soul. Now that's much better. So I want us to be the people who write with our personalities, who don't just try and copy everyone else. And even if it's short, even if it's not following a formula, it doesn't matter. Just share things with your people that you think they will find interesting. It's as simple as that. And I know that sometimes I've had kind of writer's block. I thought, oh God, I don't know what to say to people. They're not going to want to hear from me. I feel like I'm driving them crazy. They're going to be so bored reading this. Well, if you feel like that, they will. So take a break, wait for inspiration to strike, and then get back to it. Business is meant to be fun, and I think there should be an element of flow, an element of enjoyment. When I'm recording this for you, it's not hard, it's fun. I like talking about these subjects. I want to tell you about these things. It doesn't feel forced. I don't have a script. I just kind of make it up as I go along. Obviously, I roughly know what I want to tell you. There's no effort. It's just, it's something that I want to share with you. So your emails should feel the same. It's just talking to your friends, essentially, talking to people that you care about and coming from a place of warmth and caring about them and their well-being, not trying to wring them dry of their money. Because that's just unbearable. However, this isn't about just making friends, really. It is about running a business. So there's a few things you can do in each email to increase your chances of ultimately being able to sell some stuff to people. So you're going to make them memorable and interesting and you, so that people actually want to read them, because that's half the battle. You're going to train your people to take action, not just read stuff. You need them to be doing something so that when it comes to selling to them, they're used to doing something and taking action. So this doesn't mean buying stuff each time you email them. It means clicking a link or downloading something, or checking something out, or writing back to you, an action, doing something, so that eventually when you send them something which says, oh, by the way, that cool thing I mentioned to you, it's ready now, come and buy it, they're ready. They're used to doing something, they're used to taking action. Another easy way to grow your list is to encourage them to share your emails, so you could include social sharing buttons within the email. So that way, they're more likely to tell their mates. And then obviously if you did something like run a competition for your list and invite them to share it with their friends, then that would be a really great way to grow the list even further. Now, I like to segment my list. I like to have it in neat piles of people so I know who's done what. And that's why I moved over to ConvertKit, actually, because it's better for this. It enables me to have lists of people who have bought a certain product in the past, who clicked on a link and showed interest, and it makes it easier for me to tailor my emails to those people. Because once someone's on your list, they're not necessarily all at the same stage, and you don't want to keep bombarding people with the same message if it's not tailored to them. So yeah, you can do some really clever things now, which mean that people are going to feel like you know them, that you've tailored your message to them, and they're going to appreciate that. Okay, another important thing is to be consistent, and I know sometimes I've struggled with this, but don't just email them once in a blue moon and then expect people to buy from you. You want to be in their mind. You want to have a regular point of contact with them. I think emailing people every day is too much. Obviously, during a launch, there's a bit more emailing that goes on. We'll come and talk about that in our next episode, which is going to focus on launching. But I think if you're going to email people once a fortnight, so twice a month, try and stick to that pattern. If you're a once a week kind of a person, do that. Whatever pattern you set up, try and stick to it-ish, so that people get used to the way you roll. Yeah, and I think trying to enjoy it as well. Like I said before, it's meant to be fun. These are your people, so enjoy talking to them. Even if you just write to them and share an interesting video or article that you saw somewhere, they'll appreciate that, and that will take you 2 seconds just to share something. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a whole essay each time you write. It can be quite short and sweet. So try not to feel pressurised into writing too much, and try and let it flow, and think about the person on the other end and how they're going to receive the message and what they need, what they're hoping to hear from you, because I find that helps me get in the zone. Get in the writing zone. Okay, so I haven't really touched on funnels or anything like that. We could talk about that another time, but for now, I think that's been kind of introduction to list building, and it's kind of list building from a place of loving your people rather than pumping them through some kind of process. We can talk about funnels another time, but for now, I think that will do. And it's enough to be getting on with, and I hope it's been helpful and has inspired you to contact your people, share something useful with them, and build your relationship with them. I need you more than anyone, darling. You know that I have from the start. Okie dokie, well, I'm off, and I'll be back very soon with an episode around launching. So I will speak to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.
Little voice, big business.